is the end of 2015 as we know it, and my goal in 2015 was to read 220 books, and mind you, this was more of a book limit than a book goal. This goal was actually down from the 256 books I read in 2014. I am trying to cut back, which of course did not work. I made 108% of my goal, reading 237 books in 2015 for a total of 77,332 pages. But I will argue it was somewhat of a success, as that is technically down from last year, so victory is mine. So let's talk about how I rated them. It breaks down to 4 5-star books in 2015, which means I think they are pretty much perfect books. 3 of these perfect books were rereads, and 1 was a first-time read. This is actually down from how many books I rated 5 stars in 2014. In 2015, I read 34-star books, which means I loved them. This was also down from 2014. I read 154 3-star books, which meant I liked them. This is up significantly from 2014. And I read 49 2-star books, which means I disliked these books. This is down from 2014. And I did not rate any books 1 star in 2015, which means I didn't read anything I actively loathed, which is better than 2014. So pretty much 2015 was a little more meh than 2014. 2014 was filled with a lot of amazing books, but also a lot of not so good books. In 2015, I perfected my selection process a little more, got better at avoiding the really horrible books, but also did not get as many of the wow moments as I did in 2014. My theory is that 2014 was still early on in my booktube career, so I just had this glut of recommendations piled up of the best books ever, which I think stacked 2014 a little bit. But with that said, I still read more than enough epically awesome stuff in 2015 to fill many favorites videos. So we're gonna go super quick here, do a title, quick description, and hopefully you'll find a smorgasbord of books to put on your TBR. Let's start with the honorable mentions category. These are books that I reread in 2015, which confirm their status in my heart as some of the best books ever. And those books were Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I'm starting on the process to read all these books, and unsurprisingly, they're still awesome. Stardust by Neil Gaiman, his attempt at fantasy. This was like my 4th reread of this book, and there are weak points to his writing in this book, but I don't care. This is still one of my all-time favorite books. Alright, now on to my top 15 books or series I read in 2015. At number 15, we have Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. You all know what this is. Super gorgeous sci-fi comic book series about 2 lovers from warring races who have a child together. Very Romeo and Juliet, but much more mature, and the main characters are not nearly as idiotic as Romeo and Juliet were. Number 14 is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I just really like how V.E. Schwab writes. There's just something beautifully simplistic and clean about her writing style. I can't wait for her to write more. It's just going to get more epic as she goes along. Anyways, this is the start of a fantasy series. Some people say a YA fantasy series, but I don't know if there's anything particularly YA about it. Did they even mention the ages of the characters? Anyway, good start for a series. At number 13 is The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson. This series gets me every single time. They're such slow melodic books that I start them out going, what the hell am I reading? And then by the end, I am completely hooked. At number 12, we have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is new adult, about Bree Prescott, who has been through a horrible tragedy and strikes out on a road trip to find peace. She finds herself in a small town in Maine, where she befriends a young hermit who can't speak. This one just warmed my heart all up. At number 11, we have the Brothers Sinister series by Courtney Milan. These have been some of the few Regency romance books I've been able to tolerate in 2015. I read 7 of them this year, I think. My favorite was probably The Suffragette Scandal because suffragettes. I also really love the novella Talk Sweetly to Me, as it has a multiracial couple and a lot of nerdy math astronomy talk. At number 10, we have Howl's Moving Castle. This is an adorable YA fantasy book from the 1980s about a girl cursed to look like an old woman and a young magician with a dark reputation and a moving castle. I loved it. At number 9, we have The Rosie Project by Grainy Simpson. This is contemporary romance from the perspective of a socially challenged genetics professor. Think Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory on a quest to find a wife in the most scientific manner possible. This is kind of brilliant. At number 8, we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, fairly recent YA fantasy, 2012 I think, right? This is about a competition to find a royal assassin. Helena Sardothian is dragged up from the salt mines of Endovier, where she'd been left to work till she died. Anyway, she has to compete, and yeah, it is good. Number 7 is the Lucky Harbor series by Jill Shalvis, one of my favorite contemporary romance series. I finished the series in 2015, which makes me very, very sad. I read the last 4 books in the series this year, my favorite being It's in His Kiss, Book 10. It is a series that is 12 books long, set in the town of, you guessed it, Lucky Harbor, and it's really well written. Read it if you like contemporary romance. At number 6, we have another series, Psy Changeling by Nalini Singh. I read 11 of these books in 2015. My favorite was Kiss of Snow, which is book 10. I just have a thing for the 10th book in series right now, I guess. This is a paranormal romance series set in an alternate reality where there are 3 races on Earth: the humans, changelings, which are were-animals essentially, and a psychic race which has trained itself to have no feelings. It is brilliant, and I love it so much. At number 5, we have The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. This is YA paranormal fantasy. Really, the main thing I remember about this book is a feeling. It's just this feeling of otherworldly wonder and delight. I won't even try describing the story. It's kind of a trip. At number 4, we have Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, YA set in the 80s, a story of first love and young naivety meeting harsh reality. This is a dark book in a lot of ways, but also a sweet book at the same time. It's really that essence of gritty meets awe that makes me really love this book. It's unlike anything you've ever read, which can actually throw some people off, but if you can just read it for what it is and not try to make it fit into any preconceived box, it's amazing. At number 3, we have the longest book I read in 2015, Winter by Marissa Meyer, the last book in the sci-fi YA series, The Lunar Chronicles. And it's so very long because it has to wrap up everyone's stories that has been introduced in the past books. I almost wish it was longer, as I felt Winter deserved a little more screen time, page time. But really, for the limitations of space she was probably working with, it is really brilliant. I'm a sucker for retold fairy tales, and this may be the best retold fairy tale series ever written. At number 2, we have a wonderfully cute, amazingly uplifting contemporary YA novel, Lola and the Boy Next Door. This is a version of the Boy Next Door storyline that just warms the cockles of my heart. Stephanie Perkins is just the best at writing characters. They're all unique personalities that you just glom onto. Lola and Cricket are quirky and fun, and you want to get to know them immediately. Alright, at number 1, my favorite of 2015, we have The Others series by Anne Bishop. I have been a fan of Anne Bishop for quite a while. She has a fantasy series called The Black Jewels, which is dark, but good. So when I found out she was writing a paranormal romance series, I was interested. And then suddenly this obscure writer I loved was getting talked about all over BookTube for this series, so I was like, okay, I've got to read this now. And oh my god, I woke up in the mornings, read this series, went to work, read more at lunch, came home, read until bedtime, and I inhaled all 3 books of this series that way. I don't know how the series is this good, it just is. Alright, those are my favorite books of 2015. In 2016, I'm going to try and slow down a little bit on my compulsive reading habit. So I think I'm going to say that my goal for 2016 is 210 books. Happy New Year to you, and let me know what your favorite book of 2015 was and what your goal for 2016 is.